Let's get to the bottom of this one. Unspoken truths that I miss one. Tap into the minds of the people, rather acknowledge before I dismiss one. Atheists, Muslim, Christians, Buddhists, they all got usage. All got perspective, it's a collective. Get to the bottom of the truth is. With our hearts uncovered. Boy, detox from all of the lies you smothered. What them tries could have killed you, but with faith you recovered. Yup. Peel off the makeup, we finna take off. Never said it'd be a cakewalk. Meditate till we charged up. Execute goes regardless. Decalcify my pineal. Breaking language barriers, we saw millennials. Planets passing age rotations, down mean we owe. So down mean we know. Sometimes we can be slow, that's why my ears open. Every drop you add could complete the ocean. Speak up, play your part too. Been vulnerable, it's so hard to.
Can you tell me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
No. Henry didn't come on today to do this with me beforehand, so I gotta bear with me, everybody. This is gonna be a second. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can't hear you though. That's the thing. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, but I'm not using my setup. So hold on. I wish Henry would just come on, but you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you hear me through the headphones or the microphone. A minute. Check. No, that's not the thing. Hold on.
Have a great show. Testing your speakers with StreamYard. Sounds like they're working. Have a great show.
All right, fuck it. I ain't even gonna use it because thanks, Hen. But anyway, so it is what it is. Let me get everybody else to the stage. Hi, everybody. I'm Kimberly with Unseen Twister Truth. We are the People's Podcast. I have Gilly with us.
Hi.
I have DDH. I have F. Graham, and I have Jewsby in the house. Peace, everyone.
Peace, everybody doing?
Peace and love.
Can you guys all hear me?
Yeah, we
I
good.
can hear you pretty good.
Peace. Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Nobody's responding.
Yeah, I can hear you pretty good.
Can you hear us?
Can you guys say something? Somebody say something.
Hello?
Hey.
Everybody good?
Okay, there you guys go now. All right, it was my end. My bad. Yeah, usually Henry walks me through this and makes sure everything's working. He's not able to show up right now. But peace and love, everyone. Peace and love. Thank you for coming on. How are y'all? Good?
Oh, yeah. Doing great.
All right. So tonight we're going to talk about the 5 C's of mental health. So do you know what the 5 C's of mental health, Gilly, is?
Yeah. I mean, I was looking through them. The community, compassion. Help me out here. Coping.
Yep.
And what were the other ones?
Community.
Yeah, community.
Community. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think those are pretty good. They're pretty standard, and I think those are good. Like, I think those are good for like preventative and maintenance. Perhaps more is needed when crisis is happening. But if you have those in place, crisis is maybe a lot more avoidable.
Yeah.
Particularly community. I think community is a big one in that. and compassion, both self-compassion and compassion for others, compassion around you.
No, I agree completely. And I think if you were to break down things, it'd be easier to handle situations if you just stop and break it down into steps. Even though a lot of people don't prefer steps, but if we were able to break things down and didn't feel overwhelmed all at once, which is bombarded with emotions and feelings, we were able to be able to handle them situations one at a time. You guys, what do you guys think?
No, I definitely agree. You- if you able to, you know, be able to be in that state of mind, then you'll be able to handle any situation and taking it in good fashion.
I think it might get a little bit harder because there are certain things that you can control to a certain extent, and then there are certain things that you don't always have control of, particularly things that are outside of yourself, like community. Compassion, you can have self-compassion, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the community around you is going to have compassion, or understanding. There are certain things that I think are typical and that we're used to handling, and then there are certain things that people go through that unless you've had to live that experience, you really don't have a frame of reference for understanding. um and then the coping, I think the coping is probably, that's a really good one, and I think it can be an individual thing, um because there are all sorts of things that make coping strategies not necessarily one size fits all. You got to know your coping strategies. And yeah.
I honestly believe that when mental health comes in play, and this is just my opinion, when mental health comes in play, a lot of it is within self, and a lot of it you can't really expect your surroundings to know that you are dealing with mental health. So I think when we do these five steps, or these five C's of coping, or five C's of mental health, I honestly think it's for self. I don't really think that it really portrays to other people.
How do you see that connecting with the community,
I
then?
think you go to your community and you can utilize your community, but I don't think you have to depend on it. I think it's more of a self thing. That's just my opinion. SGF Graham, what do you think?
Um, my brain see things like that and like to play with the words. I look at it like if you stay connected to your community, not the community around you, but your tribe, the people you deal with that understand you and you understand them, you deal with your community, that helps you with the coping, and you will notice compassion and care. Where you got to keep it within your tribe, like we take that community thing and just say everybody around us, and everybody around you is not like you. You're
Okay.
wasting your time or whatever. But a person that's just like you is 16 hours away, 12 hours away. Social media that made it easier or whatever. Cope with your tribe, whatever. They understand what you're going through, or at least they willing to try to understand what you're going through, and that helps with the compassion. And obviously, you'll see care, and you'll know how to care back.
Facts, and that's what I was thinking. I think that it was is like a smaller base. I don't think it means just in general, like the whole community outside. 9 times out of 10, people don't really care what you're going through.
What about when your ability to overcome a situation um takes more than your tribe? You have to depend on perhaps the legal system around you, or the social system around you, or some sort of structure that you're a part of, because we don't live off in the middle of nowhere. We live within a society at this point. um so and I don't think I'm offering an opinion on this. Actually, I'm actually more posing as a question. um what do you do when the community that you need to depend on is not your tribe, does not necessarily understand, and does not have necessarily any compassion or motivation? um but you're dependent on, because okay, so we talk about mental health, right? But
Mhm.
how you handle a situation, yes, it reflects on your mental health and it affects it. But um for instance, things like injustice, things like frustration in getting resources that you need, or all of those things affect your mental health. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have an ongoing mental health concern, but it means that your mental health is vulnerable, not uh, to the community around you, even if it's not necessarily part of your tribe.
I think there's a lot of different buildings, and I will speak on that, and then I'll have Jusby speak on it, and then SGF Graham and Danny. But I think there's a lot of different resources out there for you when they say community. We can even talk in a bigger spectrum. Sometimes you get more help from a different community than the one that you are in. So sometimes you have to step out of your own community to find it within another community, because a lot of people aren't listening to you. Um, it depends on your past. It depends on your name. It depends on a lot of different situations in this world, and it's sad that it has to be that way, but it is. So usually you have to step to a broader community outside of yours. And sometimes there's more than one different office you could use. There's more than one facility, more than one lawyer, more than one, so you can go and choose many different people to find one that will work with you. Now, that's my opinion. What do you think, SGF Graham?
Um, my tribe, I can speak on my tribe. Um, my tribe, the people that are like me, and then also including me, um, we also, it's like a spider web. We also have separate things that we are tied to. And because we trust each other, like I can go to my best friend, let him know something that's going on, and he can't help me, but he knows somebody he trusts that can help me. With like it, my tribe moves like that. Like we can trust each other word to send it to each other if we know somebody. Case point me, I know a couple of DSS officers, and I know a couple of lawyers or whatever. Like I, even if they can't help me, they can send me to. They're not the type of lawyer I need. They can send me to who I need or whatever. That's the positive thing about having a community to me. Your community though, not just the community.
Yeah, because she was wanting to know a broader spectrum of outside of your personal community. But I like I said, I prefer to work within my community too, because if you know enough people and you don't burn bridges and you show authenticity, you'll get help everywhere. Um, Jusby, what do you think?
I agree as well. You can't really have a parochial mindset. You have to be open to all available outlets and resources, and you also can't be afraid to utilize some of these resources that you develop over the course of existing. So um, you never know who's sharing a problem with you, and you never know who's overcome that specific problem as well, unless you pick people's brains and you really step outside of your necessary comfort zone and really seek that type of that type of coping mechanism Otherwise, you'll pretty much be dealing with things on your own. So, um, you know, it's it's a tangled web, but you know, those that really want to tackle the problem, or find other ways to deal with things that they're going through, they usually find a way.
Hmm. DDH, what do you think?
But yeah, I think community is important because I mean you have a strong community. It can provide you emotional support that you may need, and generally, just give you a sense of overall well being, uh, especially if it's someone who share the same goals or just someone can be relatable versus if you just in a set community and you surrounded by ones that just you really just can't connect with or understand.
Is that what you were kind of asking, Gilly?
Yeah, no. And I do see that. I think there are instances where for one reason or another people are ostracized from their community.
Yeah.
Um I know I've experienced that. Um and I mean, or you look at like an artist like Sinead O'Connor. She spoke out against the Catholic Church, and it not only ruined her career, but she was ostracized and demonized for the rest of her life. Um, and in cases like that, I think sometimes community should find people, um, because it's sort of there are certain communities who within sort of their makeup shunning is a thing. And I'm not going to call out any communities because that's not what I'm here to do. But there are certain, but shunning, silent treatment. It's it happens in small scales on family, and it happens in larger scales in sort of tighter knit communities. And when somebody is shunned, their ability to work is cut off. Their ability to network, particularly if they're very used to a certain way of life, right? They've been brought up in a very sort of insulated sort of place. And yes, you have to get outside of your comfort zone, but that can take a person years. And I think that's maybe where compassion comes in. Is sometimes there are people who don't know either where to build community or how. Um, and I think that we have a social responsibility to reach out to people who are not necessarily like us, and still try to understand and come beside them.
I'm really focused on self. I'm really focused on self. I think that if you look within self and you go to people that are like-minded or that are not like-minded, and you go to different resources, if you ask, 9 times out of 10 you're going to get help. And if it's not in your area where you live, maybe you have to get outside your area. If you feel like your area is stopping you from growing and receiving help, then go outside your area. You're going to get help somewhere. Not everybody's going to turn you down. They can't. They can't. Somebody will eventually help you. And it may not be the help that you think you need, but at the end of the day, any help is better than no help. And then you eventually meet somebody that will help you if you continue asking.
Do you think that though? Do you think that any help is better than no help?
I do. Because
What if the help is misguided?
you have to use discernment and pick and choose. Sometimes you got to take stuff on yourself. Sometimes you got to depend on yourself. Sometimes you got to look within yourself and say, hey, am I going to use this or not? You got to have that mental capacity to know whether or not it's good for you.
But sometimes people have something that diminishes either their capacity to choose or their capacity to understand what is best. And sometimes those things are not within a person's control, particularly if we're talking about mental health. And it goes beyond mental health. It can go beyond. It can go into neurological health.
I can use, for example, my father got misdiagnosed and put into a facility, misdiagnosed because he had a mental breakdown, and because of that mental breakdown, he was diagnosed as schizophrenia and all this other stuff, and they kept putting him on medication. Well, his community stopped it. So you have to build with somebody. You can't go through life and not build with somebody. I don't know who's got the feedback. It may even be me, but at the end of the day, you got to build with somebody, though. You got to be able to trust within somebody and have somebody that will back you up and stand behind you. Not everybody has somebody, whether you know it or not. What do you think, SGF Graham?
Um, everybody has somebody. If if you be you, like it might take a while, but when I moved to Georgia, not getting into how I got into my situation, but I was in a situation where I was practically homeless, um, living in a trailer that I shouldn't be in with a 120-pound bully that I refused to let go. And it was a very racist town in Georgia. And I ran into a Jehovah Witness, and at first I shunned him away. It was a black Jehovah Witness. I didn't care. I shunned him away. I didn't want to hear none of that. And his son, for some reason, my dog liked his son. Like his son jumped over the fence and like played with my dog, like he's seen my dog all his life. That made me wonder, like, all right, let me talk to you. And I talked to him, and he just immediately he dropped religion, and he went to, okay, we need to figure out how to help you out money wise. Didn't know this dude from nowhere. I told him my skill, with woodwork. We went and talked to the lady. A lot of the trailers, all the patios pretty much needed fits. She was like, I fixed one patio that'll pay for 1 month. He paid for the first wood just to show her what I can do. Like he paid for everything. Didn't ask me to come to the church or whatever, his religion. He just dropped it all. And I rebuilt mine. She saw it, then she let me do that. And then he brought me to his job, and then I got a job where he worked at. And this was all on just I could have retreated when I winded up stranded or whatever. But for some reason, like I picked up the phone and I put the phone back down, and I was like, "Nah, it's time to be a man. It's time to figure this out." Whatever, and I had to put my face forward though, or whatever. I had to accept that help that the universe sent to me because I was about to push it away just because of what he believed. I didn't want to hear it,
Mm.
and if it wasn't for my dog liking his son, I would have never got to know that this dude was like the best part of the me stepping out on my own. Was so you gotta go out there because the tribe is out there. It's scary. It's scary. It's lonely too. It's lonely at first and it's scary, but the tribe is out there and it's definitely worth it.
Gilly, can you turn whatever you have down if you have it playing on your phone or another device because you have feedback.
I have feedback. I
Yeah.
don't have anything on, so who do I? Is
Uh,
it possibly just be the feedback that's coming from the phone that I'm on? Maybe.
I don't know. It comes and goes. But once I muted your mic, it stopped. So
Yeah.
maybe mute your mic until you're ready to speak and then unmute it.
Okay. You want me to mute it myself?
Yeah, but you can
Okay.
talk if you want to respond to that.
No, I think that was a good example that he gave of how
And
um
I wanted to say one more thing. The reason that I feel that it's hard where you were born, because those people saw you grow up. They already have their perception of you, and they can't let it go. Versus when you go somewhere else, the only perception they have is what you tell them, what you give them, what you show them. So it's easy to be you.
You know, there's a story, and I don't know how true this is, but I've been passing the story on as if it is knowledge, that Jesus was not Jesus in Jerusalem. Jesus was only known that he was Jesus in other communities, in other countries, or whatever you want to call them. In his own little area, people shunned him and laughed at him, and he was not Jesus there. So sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone and go somewhere else. You're not getting the help you need in that place where you live, then maybe that's the sign from the universe to go. Get out of there. Go seek that help somewhere, because it's there for you, and it's going to be in probably the most weirdest places, or won't look like something you thought it would be. But you never know until you ask. You never know. What do you think about compassion? What do you think? Do you think they mean compassion as a collective whole of the whole world, or compassion within yourself, or compassion in a smaller spectrum just for one another? Gilly. No, I muted you, sweetheart, because you're the mic had feedback.
Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think all of the above. I don't think that compassion exists within a vacuum. I think that self-compassion is important, because sometimes you're the only one who's going to have compassion for you in a given moment. So I do think that self-compassion is important, because otherwise things like shame happen. And I don't think shame is a very useful emotion, in the long run. I think compassion for the people around you, because if not you, who? And and typically, if you show compassion for those around you, they are more willing to want to be open to you and to understand who you are. And then compassion for the community, I think or in a broader spectrum, I think is a really big one. Because there are not really any successful one-man armies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we and it doesn't mean that we always have to. I mean, sometimes self-compassion is being like, you know what, I can't even handle my own ish. You know, I can't right now. But in general, um, I think that it's that people have a tendency to think about the issues that affect them, and sort of ignore the other issues. You know, that's how come we have such politicized or polarized politics and things like that, is because self-interest becomes a big thing. So I think compassion outside of what you understand is really how you build true compassion. If it's only built through shared experiences and relatable experiences, then I don't. It might be empathy, but I'm not sure if it's compassion. If that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense to me. Um, Dewsby, what do you think?
Could you repeat the question for me?
For compassion, do you think they mean compassion as a collective whole, or compassion for one another, or self-compassion, or the
Um,
above?
well, I think it derives from, you having, some level of sensitivity or feeling for, a given situation or circumstance. You have to be able to identify compassion in order to extend compassion. So, um, you know, it's not always a one size fit all scenario. So you can't really say everyone is, inept to doing it or being able to display it easily, or without any level of assistance. So you have to be mindful of this, and you have to take it into consideration exactly what people go through on a day-to-day basis, in which will allow them to show some level of compassion, because some people are used to being a-holes, sometimes to a point where they don't even realize it. Or you have some people who understand that we all go through things, and they try their best to lead with compassion, in a sense, to make people feel as comfortable as possible. So um in general, it's just a mixed bag, but we all have to learn how to identify it in order to give it out, or practice it on a day-to-day basis. So
I agree. I agree. What about you, DDH?
I think when you practice it on your own, it can help you reduce a lot of negative feelings and like depression and stress. And then as far as if you utilize it to others, to help you build social bonds with people, um, and it can just allow you to be more understanding with people. So, I mean, I think when it literally comes down to it, I think that both both is important.
See, and then this other site that I looked up, the reflection of the five C's, they talk about collaboration, cost, community, and culture, and care as one of is the five C's. And I think that they are all stem from the same basis. I think it's about finding what's in within yourself. And if you can't find it within yourself, have compassion. Go outside of yourself and look at it at a bigger spectrum and ask the people around you for help. You aren't able to receive the help then that way. Then care about what someone says to you, and then try to go from out, a bigger sense. So I think that being able to cope with it is the biggest thing. You got to find out what the problem is and then be able to cope with the problem and then go and seek the help to resolve the problem. That's just my opinion. What do you think about that, Gilly?
Well, Juiceby, you had mentioned something about sometimes there's just a-holes out there, and then my question would be, don't they need compassion too? um and I'm sort of saying that a little bit flippantly, but um I've in my experience sometimes been in a-hole, and sometimes had to love some, and people typically don't just come out that way, you know. um I mean, I think probably more often than not I've been too nice, but yeah, I know when I'm going through a lot of stuff, sometimes people can appear like they're dismissive, like they're cold, like they're shut down, um and I think that, I guess it goes back to what I was saying before. Sometimes we got to seek out who needs compassion, because not everybody has, not everybody even has a frame of reference of what that means or how that feels, either for self or for others. And I think that, when before the world got so big, so we're all connected now. We can speak to somebody, on the other side of the globe just as easily as we can talk to our neighbor at any given moment, sometimes easier. People don't knock on people's doors anymore. And um I think that it's easy to get lost um in that large of a world. um and when people, for instance, without getting too personal into my situation, um I lost my family. And that has made the world a much bigger and a much scarier place. Because there is no, when you got family, there's a bit of a safety net, right? There's a bit of a, if it all goes to hell, I can call my mama, like, or whatever. But when you don't have that, um, it not only makes it harder to build, but then you start to ask questions like, okay, so what is it that's wrong with me? And the world has a million answers for you right away if you want to ask that question, right? They're telling you all the time what's wrong with you, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, what, makes you a good person, what makes you a bad person. um and so if we're not actively um sort of keeping our eyes and our hearts open to people who may not reach out. Some people mask really well. I tend to mask really well. My life can be on complete fire, and I will smile and tell you I'm okay. Um, and it not everybody is easy to care for, and that doesn't mean because they're necessarily prickly. It means because for whatever reasons there's defenses, and our compassion should extend or expand. um I think that or when we think about world issues, um I think that we're if it's something that doesn't affect us, if it's something that we don't agree with, it's real easy to be like, oh, well, they're a bunch of this, or this is a bunch of, whatever, and, you know, glad it's not my backyard kind of thing. But that's a real problem in our culture. Um, and I think that it kind of comes down to um, when when we're not standing up for others, there's a good likelihood that others aren't going to be standing up for us either.
And one of the C's is control. Sometimes you got to worry about what's in your control. Sometimes. One of the things is, even though somebody else might not have compassion for what you're growing through, and they don't give you the answers you need, doesn't mean they're still not trying to help you. You just may not see that and receive that. A lot of the times, I'm telling you, a lot of the times we stop our own blessings, and a lot of times we stand in our own way and we stop what's meant for us because we don't see it the way it's supposed to have been. It didn't come to us the way that we thought it would. So, control. Sometimes it's we have to stop trying to control everything, or have a form of self-control within ourselves and realize that that's just how they feel. Doesn't mean that's how everybody feels. And don't put everybody in a collective and say, okay, well, I'm not going to go talk to no lawyers anymore because that lawyer didn't help me. Continue. Continue to another lawyer. Continue to another mental health building or whatever. If community mental health didn't help you, then go to another one. There's other resources out there. Go to a church, go to somewhere else and ask. Go to your neighbors, go to wherever you got to go, but go somewhere else and ask for help, because somebody will know somebody. Not everybody's going to turn you down. Not everybody's going to give you the same answers. It may not be the answer that you were searching for, and it may not look the way you want it to. It doesn't mean it's not there. You never know until you get out there and try. I told somebody one time, I was just waiting for you to ask. That's all. I don't have a problem helping. I just want you to ask. I'm not going to offer my services to you because I don't know who needs it. So that's 9 times out of 10, that's usually the issue. People don't know that you're suffering if you don't tell them you're suffering. People don't know you're hurting if you don't say you're hurting. And if you feel like it's that bad where you have to get and seek some help and nobody around you is helping, there's hotlines that you can call 24/7. There's different services that you can call 24/7 that will give you different resources to reach out to. It's never that bad where you have to unalive yourself or remove yourself from this. It's never that bad, no matter what it is you went through. And I promise you, because I went through some things, and it's never that bad. Anybody else want to say anything about it? Anyone?
About what specifically? Control?
No, just in general about the subject.
It kind of went elsewhere. I thought we was on control. My bad.
No, I just threw control in there because that wasn't one of the
Oh,
C's.
okay.
I said
I
also when
thought
I searched up, I saw one of the C's that said control. So I figured that I would throw that out there because sometimes we only can worry about what we can worry about. Some things are out of our control.
I I don't know. I run on automatic. I mean, I'm in control, but I step out the way often because when it don't go my way, I get ticked. But when I just kind of like put it out there, work towards it, and then move on to whatever and don't get aggravated, it always get completed. May not been when I wanted it to, but the time that I completed it was actually a better time that it was complete than what I wanted at that time. So like even with like driving, if I if I wind up having to take a detour, like okay, I probably dodged getting into a wreck or something because somebody wasn't paying attention and and slammed into the back of me. You know, I think like that. I don't get mad about being late for work. I laugh at people that drive crazy to get late for work or whatever. Like I just my control is I made it here or whatever. Like other than that, I just let it be.
I feel that. See, the five C's that they came up with at the beginning was connection, positive relationships with family, peers, and communities. Compassion, a key component of healthy relationships. Coping, a strategy of dealing with challenges. Community, a positive social network. Doesn't mean the whole vast, like in the world, it means your social network, a positive tribe. And then it says care, showing love, affection, and support for others. Them are the five C's that they came up with when we first started this. You go and you can research it, and they all come up with something different. And I just think basically it was giving you small steps to be able to try to get help. When you feel overwhelmed and you feel like there's no other turn, try to break it down in small steps. If you take the world and put it all on your shoulders and say, well, these people are fighting over here, these people are robbing over here, these people are homeless over here, these people over here go without water, these people over here, if you put all that on your shoulders, where do you lie with your problems? So I think when it comes to the five C's, it's telling you to break down situations and start dealing with it in steps instead of taking the whole world on your shoulders and expect to fix everything overnight when you yourself is still broken. That's what I believe. I'm not saying I'm right, but that was my opinion of it. What do you think, Jewsby? What do you think they meant when they said the five C's of mental health?
What were they again? You said they were coping, compassion, or
Mm.
connection, culture,
In care, no, community and care.
community, and care. Okay. Um. Well, it all ties into the same realm. They definitely go hand in hand. Uh, sometimes we have more of one versus the other, but in those instances, you have to basically make what you have work for you. Um, as you stated earlier, um, if you don't ask, there's no way of people knowing. So you have to seek in order to find these answers. And they're all around us. Sometimes they're staring a hole through us. And it's all based upon your level of discernment again. We meet so many people throughout the course of our journey, and you never know a person's maximum capabilities, or what they're possibly able to do for you and your situation. So I feel like you owe it to yourself to explore some of these relationships, and some of these crossings that we have with different people, solely because you never know whether or not this person is holding that missing piece.
I agree. I agree. DDH, what do you think? Do you think that they were meaning like tackle it all at once, or do you think they were just trying to help you break it down so it was easier steps to be able to decompartmentalize whatever you're dealing with?
I mean, I think it was meant to be broken down because each one, is something different. And it applies in different scenarios and situation um, that we encounter on our everyday routine. So I think all of them help you be able to be real structured in life. If you ask me, that's my opinion on it. I think that utilizing them and using them, you'll be able to improve yourself.
And I liked when SGF Graham said about timing, because sometimes just because it didn't happen when you think it should have happened doesn't mean it won't happen. Don't give up seeking. Don't give up trying to look for it. It says, I'll join in on Thursday for the next episode. My family members are over. Christmas carols, loud children. Okay. Peace and love, Kendall. Peace and love. But I honestly think that timing is a huge thing. When it feels like the world's on our shoulders and we feel like we need it now and we want the answers now, sometimes it's because we're not ready for them. So sometimes it doesn't happen when we want it to happen. Doesn't mean it won't happen. And it doesn't mean it's not going to happen when it's supposed to happen. You receive that, Gilly?
Um, yes and no.
Okay.
And let me tell you why. Um, I have been fighting a battle um for my freedom, for the rights of my children to be protected for over a decade. Um, in a family, in a communities and systems that do not understand the dynamics with which we're dealing with. Um, and every single time almost that I have sought to make it better, um, there's been consequences, severe consequences. And um, oftentimes that left us more isolated, more ostracized, more misunderstood, and with what looked like more mental health issues that were really just normal human reactions to not good things. I think that we tend to label every strong emotional display, whether it be anger, whether it be sadness, whether it be whatever, as if it's a big one, we tend to label it as mental illness, or somebody's lost it, or somebody's but the reality is no, it's very human to react big when big things are happening. um and so in that respect, like I said, I've been at it over a decade. um and things are getting worse. um just from a reality point of view. And as far um like I said sort of at the beginning, is, do I think that those are good strategies? Absolutely. Particularly when things are going well, or particularly when things are maybe a little stressful or new or different. But when somebody's in a crisis, um they're not always going to be able to stand on top of these 5 C's and ask the right way. There may be certain vulnerabilities. There's times that I've asked for help and been exploited. There's times that, um there's times that I've asked for help and been shunned or ostracized or judged, or um and that just made my children more vulnerable as well. um and so I do see what you're saying. As you keep calling, you keep reaching out, um you find your tribe. It may not be where you are, it may not be where you're from, but you find your tribe. But when there are larger issues that are misunderstood, sometimes we need an advocate. It's sort of like, sometimes people criticize defense lawyers, right? Because how could you defend that person? And I'm real glad that there are people out there that can defend anybody. Um, because I really do think that the majority of people, if shown compassion, can get better. Particularly if they're receiving the right kind of help.
I agree with you, but I don't agree with you on one part only. And
Mhm.
sometimes big things don't deserve big reactions, whether it's human or nature or not. Sometimes a no reaction is better than a huge reaction, because then it gets people to look at you differently.
Mhm.
To meet that energy where it brought you does not mean that it's justifiable. I'm just saying, that's just my
No,
opinion.
no, no, and I get it, and I think it depends on the thing.
Yeah.
I'm a crier.
Hmm.
Like, I'm a big time crier. That makes people uncomfortable sometimes. It makes them very uncomfortable sometimes. Um, it's not something that I can control, though. Particularly when there's a lot of stress. And I don't just cry when I'm sad, or I cry when I'm angry. I cry when I'm scared. I cry when I'm
Cry when
happy.
I'm happy. Me too. And at the
I,
end of the
I
day, that's
cry
when
when I
you're.
see somebody else go
Me
through
too.
something.
Me
I
too.
cry when I'm
Watch
stopped.
commercials, anything. Me too.
It
But at the end of the day,
doesn't
that's
always
not.
make me popular, and it does make people
But
uncomfortable.
that's not your problem. I'm just letting
Right.
you know. That's not your problem at the end of the day. Sometimes
Right.
you got to worry about what is your problem, not others. Because it comes back to the fact of, I'm going to step away from 5 C's for a minute, but it comes back from the fact of triggers. Is it your problem that the person has the trigger and you triggered it? Or is the person who has the trigger has the issue?
Oh, it's definitely. I think it's a societal trigger. I think that big emotion, and that's what I was talking about. I'm not talking about, if someone's being angry, then you meet them with the same level of anger and you destroy stuff. And no,
Hmm.
no, no. I'm just saying there are certain things. Certain people have neurological disorders, or other things that, I'm close to somebody who, the way I describe it is I can almost feel the energy, like,
Hmm.
from within him. And there's times when he's talking that he's just and it my nervous system, it's very hard to handle.
Hmm.
But that's something on me, because that's not something they're doing on purpose. At the same time, I've been able, as the friendship is built, and whatever, been able to say, hey, it makes me real uncomfortable when you're, when you do this. And so, it becomes a dance a bit. But I think being willing to talk to people when their reactions or their behavior is maybe making you uncomfortable. To be honest, I think we're so afraid of offending people right now,
It's hard to say
um,
anything.
that I almost see it as a lack of respect for each other. Like, if I say something,
I can
this
agree.
person can't handle it. And
Mm.
And I think that, that it can go to extremes where we're so afraid of hurting each other, we're so afraid of offending each other, that we're not communicating with any level of respect for, hey, I bet this person can handle it, and I bet we can navigate a conversation around this. um I don't know exactly where I was going with that.
No,
Sometimes I
but
get lost,
I
but
like what you're saying because when I come to realize, because the only thing I could talk about is what I deal with, and when I come to realize that there's certain situations within my living situation in my environment that I'm around that they are healing and they are dealing with stuff and they are trying to cope with things within themselves and do it sober and do it with the best tools and knowledge they know how. And sometimes they will lash out and not intentionally try to reflect onto me and blame me for things that I have no control over just because I'm the target and I'm the happy one. And I get it. So I can receive exactly what you're saying. Honestly, I can. Um, DDH, it's hard to not show emotions when you really care about something and able to stay strong during it.
You asked me that?
No, I'm telling you, and I want you to piggyback off of it.
Oh yeah, uh, it really is because you try to not put the emotion in there and just try to not think about it, and it'll seem to be, just be there. Um, think that a lot of times if you could just, look at it on a positive standpoint, a perspective, it'll affect the way that you handle the emotions behind it.
Yeah, and I like the control part. I really like the control part. I think the control should have been part of the C's because I think that once you have that ability to control what you can control, then later on, whoever felt that type of way or whoever was bothered by you or triggered by you, then they are able to be able to look at themselves and be like, okay, they didn't react to what I said and they kept control within themselves. So maybe the problem is me. And now I have to look within myself and find out what I did. That's just my opinion from my experience of things. What do you think, SGF Graham?
Can you repeat the part you want me to piggyback off of?
Do you think that every action deserves a reaction and sometimes that just the control of yourself will make a reaction differently?
It's still a reaction. I guess you meant a negative reaction.
Yes.
Oh, okay. No, every negative reaction doesn't deserve another negative reaction. I guess it depends on the energy behind it. Was it intentional? Did you have to defend yourself? You know, is it something you can walk away from? Why are you dealing with it? Is it something like simple as Facebook where you can block the person? Like, I mean, a reaction is going to occur, but it doesn't have to be negative.
Okay. Jewsby, do you have a different opinion?
Not so much a different opinion, maybe a different perspective per se. Um, I definitely feel like every action doesn't deserve a reaction, whether it's negative or positive. But acknowledging the situation is the most important thing to me. I mean, you can react how you want to, whether it's you know a natural reaction or it was something that was that was a concerted effort. But at the end of the day, acknowledging what's going on and being aware is more paramount to me than reacting to anything. But you know, it's natural to react to things, so I don't really feed too much into the course of that action versus me understanding what's going on and like you said, having control over, you know, the way I maneuver, whether it's, you know, giving a negative reaction or preserving a certain reaction, and, you know, just eliminating it altogether without, you know, paying it any mind. But, you know, it's always important to recognize what's going on, and be aware of these things, so that the next time it comes around, it's much easier to analyze on the fly, you know, because these things aren't scripted.
Okay, I agree. I agree. So we're going to slowly wrap this up. But if somebody's dealing with mental health, what are a couple things you want to tell them, Gilly? What are a couple things that you can
Before,
feel for knowledge of help?
can I get to that in 1 second? Because I do have a little bit of something to say about the reaction.
Okay.
I
Um,
wanted to say something too after.
Oh, okay.
you can go ahead. You
Uh,
can go ahead, and then I'll follow up.
commenting on what he said. See how I was taught that that no reaction that you're talking about is the biggest reaction. Where like it sends a stern statement when you recognize it and you don't give it nothing, because now they don't know what to do. You don't scramble their energy with
Exactly.
just by not reacting. So it's still by not, quote unquote reacting, but so it might be the strongest reaction most of the time.
Period. Go
Um,
ahead, Gilly.
yeah, no, and I agree with that, and in terms of maybe a successful way of dealing with people sometimes, but sometimes that doesn't work. And I think that we are very quick to blame people for their reactions, so much so that we forgot what got them to react. Sometimes there are things that are done that are egregious. Sometimes there are things that are done that deserve a reaction, that deserve anger, that deserve disgust, that deserve, something. And to manage the way that people react to something, because it makes everybody more comfortable, instead of dealing with what's happening to lead to some of those reactions. And I'm not talking about triggers. I'm talking about sometimes people harm other people, and sometimes they harm groups of people, and sometimes they harm single people. But why are we so worried about the reactor? I think that it ties into the whole, nobody likes to use the word victim. Well, you know what? Sometimes people are victims, period. And that's not a bad thing. Why is being a victim worse than being a perpetrator? Um, and that's just my opinion on that. Like, I'm not, but I think there are sometimes that um neuroregulate. I mean, you can't even regulate your nervous system because of what happened. And for sometimes that happens within groups that are marginalized, that are oppressed. That happens, that's why there's things like battered women syndrome. That's why, there's riots sometimes. That's why, and I'm not saying, that's why there's school shooters sometimes. And I am not saying that I am in favor of anybody being hurt ever. But if we keep worrying about the reactors instead of the things that leads up to why people sometimes react so strongly, I think we're going to continue to go downward. And gray rocking, like, and I hear what you're saying, about the no reaction is a strong reaction. And I hear that. And they teach that a lot with narcissistic abuse. It, the less reaction you give, the more like a gray rock, the more boring you are. Um, the more likely the person is to um to leave you alone. Well, that's true until you have somebody who has an obsession with somebody, until you have somebody who is so vindictive in their nature that no reaction is provocation. Um and so I just think that these things are more nuanced. It's not that I disagree. I agree, but I think there's more to it.
Okay.
Um,
So
so and what was the question you asked?
if someone's dealing with mental health, what are you can give them for advice?
Mm, keep asking for what you need. Keep asking for what you need. If you can give it to yourself, that's great. Um, but but if you can't, um, don't let people change. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes things are bigger than us.
Okay. SGF Graham.
Um,
Some, someone dealing with mental health.
know that the C for compassion is also self compassion. Protect yourself. Don't give all your energy. There's people out there that don't even know they energy vampires. They incidental. They're not even doing it on purpose. Or whatever. Protect your energy. Don't. You gotta learn how to stop trying to help everybody. Self care. You gotta can't be scared to shut down. Whatever, because everything is getting to you. Know your triggers. A wise person know their limitations. Don't go beyond it.
Jews be my guy.
I would say try and take try and take the focus off of what it is that you're dealing with, and focus more on what makes you liberated as a person. Find more hobbies. Work out more. I think that a lot of times, people who deal with mental illness or mental episodes, um, they don't bide their time in a productive way. Most cases, sometimes, dwelling is something that they do more so than trying to you know entertain themselves with things that will promote positivity or promote a more happier state. And I think that if you focus on being more productive in a sense, and just trying to pull yourself away from the problem more so than just beating yourself up over it, um, you might come out better off than what you are.
Henry, sorry, babes. I didn't see you sitting down there because I had the screen bigger.
I've
Um,
been making funny faces.
I want to
I've
get to
been here
DDH.
since Tilly
I
said
just,
she's a big crier.
I just saw your little bubble. Let me get to DDH real quick, and then I'll get to you. So,
Mm.
DDH, what would you tell people that are dealing with mental health right now?
Try to just develop coping skills and learn to try to manage your feelings if you can, even if it just take meditation. Try to find yourself, practice self care, and always reach out and talk to somebody about it. It's good to have somebody to talk to, especially when you're going through those times.
Yeah, Henry, can you read Kondo's comment?
Is that all I'm good for? No, it's
Yeah.
okay. I am an elf. It's okay to reach out. Don't suffer in silence. Call a friend, families, even online. Be kind to others. You don't know what they are going through. Right
All
there.
right, Henry. So, if somebody dealing with mental health, what are you going to tell them to help them get through this time right now?
Um, let's go off key since I haven't been on. Uh, I would tell them that you're valid. I think 99.9% of the constructs that we have in society that are deemed normal are designed to drive everybody crazy. A lot of the people I talk to, who I will never disclose, but a lot of the people I talk to who need the most help are therapists and counselors. They're coming to me more and more each day, which is sad and crazy, and that's where we're at. Put yourself first. Don't let people tell you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. Your gut, your heart, your soul, and your humanity behind you will tell you what to do. And it might not grant you, don't worry about that shit. You just follow your heart, because it's not applicable in society always to do it. But just do it anyway. I think we're at the point where if you're going to be yourself, you will meld in perfectly. And if not, you're valid. There's a lot of reasons to be upset about things. Find your place, stay in your lane, and try and keep it clean and not smashing into other vehicles. There's a lot of them careening.
Exactly. And I want to say it's only dark in the storm because you're in the middle of it. When you get out of it, you're going to be like, wow, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Or you're going to feel stronger in the end and be like, I can handle that. I remember working 16-hour shifts, and in the middle of a 16-hour shift, I'm just like, man, why did I do this to myself? And then after the end of the 16-hour shift, I'm like, it wasn't that bad. And then I sign up for another 16-hour shift the next day, and I'm like, why am I killing myself? And what am I doing this for myself? And then beating myself over it because I was no longer in the middle of the 16-hour shift. I was out of it, and I figured I can handle it again. And then I put myself through that hell again, because it's only dark in the middle of the storm. But once you're out of the storm, it's going to be like, wow, it wasn't as bad as I thought. So remember that. It's brightness somewhere. And might as well make it with inside of self. Be that light. And then everybody else should shine bright around you. If not, then that's none of your business, and fuck them anyways.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. All right, we're going to wrap this up. I love you all. January 18th, getting closer and closer and closer. We're going to be in Flint at 124 West 1st Street. So come on out there. Henry will be there with myself. So may everybody's night be full of positive energy and high vibration. I want you all to know I love my tribe, and thank you for coming on and sharing your guys' opinions with me, because you matter. Because we are the People's Podcast. Peace and love. Ashe.
Peace.
Let's get to the bottom of this one. Unspoken truths that I miss one. Tap into the minds of the people, rather acknowledge before I dismiss one. Atheists, Muslim, Christians, Buddhists, they all got usage. All got perspective, it's a collective. Get to the bottom where the truth is, where the heart's uncovered. Where you detox from all of the lies you smothered. Where them tries could have killed you, but with faith you recover. Yup. Peel off the makeup, we finna take off. Never said it'd be a cakewalk. Meditate till we charged up. Execute goes regardless. Decalcify my pineal. Breaking language barriers, we saw millennials. Planets passing age rotations, down me we owe. So down me we know. Sometimes we can be slow, that's why my ears open. Every drop you add could complete the ocean. Speak up, play your part too. Been vulnerable.